Hello, Preach Like a Girl podcast listeners. I'm Kimberly, and today I'm so glad to welcome you to a conversation with one of my favorite people on the whole planet, Lady Diana Eubanks. Welcome to you, Lady Di. How are you?
Just a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm doing wonderful. God is good.
I'm so glad to hear it. Now, let me tell the wide world who may not have encountered you yet that Lady Diana Eubanks is this towering figure in our church, in the Church of God. And I've heard about her for years. I've bought necklaces and handbags from her for years. But this last November, we traveled together to Egypt and to Uganda. And when I tell you, everyone who knows Diana Eubanks calls her either Lady Di or Mommy because she is a person of such elegance and royalty that you just feel it in her presence. So I hope that will come across the airwaves as we talk today. Lady Di, my little sister, was named Amy, and even as a baby kid, adults called her Miss Amy because she was just somebody to know. And I feel that way about you. Your name has to have some kind of prefix to respect and honor the presence of God in you, the presence of joy in you, the presence of warmth in you. And so I have been trying to get Lady Di on this podcast. I've done everything but hog tie her to get her on this podcast, but tell her it would be so easy to talk. So we welcome you. We're glad you're here. And thanks for finally saying yes.
Yes.
Now, on this podcast, we are particularly concerned with the stories of women and telling the stories of women. And you are one of the best storytellers I've ever known. When we are traveling in the middle, it was actually 4 a.m. in the morning on some kind of sprinter van somewhere in East Africa. Do you remember, Lady Di? We were filling up water bottles from some sort of keg in the front. And you were telling us stories. You were telling us stories about rhinoceros chasing you. You were telling us stories about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. I mean, you had us captivated at 4 o'clock in the morning telling your stories.
Yes.
So I would like to know, have you always been a storyteller? Has that kind of been part of who you've always come up to be?
Well, traveling all over the country for 21 years with my husband, it was always adventure. And we always had a story. The family joke was we always needed a video camera following us wherever we went.
Yes.
Always a story with the Eubanks family.
Yes. That's true. Now, tell us about your family, your husband, who was a longtime pastor, and then your children. What's your family comprised of?
Well, my husband and I, we were elementary school sweethearts. And we got married at an early age. And he joined the Air Force.
Yes.
And Portsmouth, New Hampshire. was our first base.
Okay.
And, after that, it was like every 2.5 years, we moved to another state.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Germany. We were in Europe for about 3 years, and then we came back to North Dakota and, just traveling all over the country. My children got one of the best educations in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and so finally, when my husband retired, I think uh, my sons, they were in 12th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and everything, they were taught about history and stuff. My kids knew they knew the answers before they even,
Yeah.
asked questions. So that was a blessing, the 21 years of service that,
Yes.
um, my husband had, and that we were there, to follow him around the world, you know.
And you had 4 children,
Yes,
biological children, is that
yes,
right?
4 children, yes, and out of the 4 children, it's like 12 grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
Out of the 12 grandchildren, I think when is Erica due?
In a few weeks, 3 weeks.
Oh, in about 3 weeks, I'm told. I will
Okay.
have 15 great grandchildren.
Oh my God.
A lot of people, lots of people.
Yes, that's right. And then all the family that you welcome to you into your life through Christ Jesus, and all the people who feel like honorary Eubanks, including myself. Yes.
I had one friend. She says, uh, "Do you have uh, uh, any more kids?" I said, "No, I don't." And they were looking at my younger son, which is Ashley's father. I says, "Well, number one, I said you're too old. You know, so stop looking at my son cross-eyed like that. If anybody available, they're all gone."
Yeah. We have to be drafted in a different way.
Yes, 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 yes. Goddaughters and godsons.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so your husband and you he served in the military
Mhm.
21 years. At what point did he begin pastoral ministry? And did you all sort of launch your ministry life?
My husband, he got the calling to be a pastor when he was 18 years old.
Mhm.
And that's the time that he went into the Air Force.
Mhm.
And he said he made a deal with the Lord. He wanted to do like his father did. His father started a couple of churches down here, down south.
Okay.
And but he wanted to wait until he retired. So his goal was, when we graduated, to go, right into the service and do, the 21 years,
Mhm.
and retire so that he would not have to burden a church, for money.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so God, honored that, and
Mhm.
that's exactly, what we did. But you know what? Backing up a little bit in the meantime, we were stationed in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and we started Bible study
Mhm.
in our home on the base, and it grew. My husband said, "Oh my goodness, what do we do now?" It grew, so we had to go to elementary school
Oh my goodness.
on Sundays.
Uh,
That's what that pastor,
yeah. Yeah.
but just good Christian man,
Yeah.
leadership, and so we it was a young man that had just finished the Bay Ridge College,
Mhm.
and so we got Pastor Frank, to be pastor. And
Wow.
so from the elementary school, these people were building a church,
Mm.
and they ran out of funds.
Mhm.
So my husband looked into trying to buy the building,
Okay.
and so we reached out to Anderson,
Mhm.
and they funded us the money to buy the building.
Mhm.
And so my husband made this beautiful sign, out front, because he was a carpenter.
Yes.
And we built. Well, the men, they worked on that church, and it was just so cute. And the saddest part about it, we got shipped to Ramstein, Germany. We never stepped foot in the
Oh
complete,
my gosh.
never stepped foot in the building.
So
So
you had helped establish it and
helped
then you moved
establish.
to
Yep,
another. Yeah. Wow.
yep. And when we came back from Germany 3 years later, Pastor Frank, he met us and gave us a nice little tour, of the church,
Mhm.
really, really, really nice,
Yeah.
and Pastor Frank passed away. And Fort Walton Beach being such a small community, I don't know what happened, but
Mhm.
the church was sold. I still don't know how they sold the church. I still
Mhm.
don't know how they did it, but they did.
Uh-huh.
So the church, the first Church of God in Fort Walton Beach is not there anymore. But we gave all the glory for all the souls that were saved.
Yes.
The time that we established the church. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so I tell people, I said God had already given us the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
So when we retired, and 5 years later, we were going to his father's church that he established
Okay.
here in Fort Lauderdale. And so 5 years later, my husband told me, he says, God told me it's time. And
Okay.
I said, all right, so we had the blueprint. You
Yeah.
see, so we started, having Sunday school, Bible study,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
with my children
Mm-hmm.
and a good friend, 7. So, and so we had a rental house. And
Okay.
my husband says, this is where we're going to have the little church, and I'm going, oh my gosh, are you kidding? So they were so excited, and honey, they went in there and they gutted that place out and made it into the most cutest chapel you've ever seen.
Hmm.
And so, honey, we were on our way,
Uh-huh.
Same thing happened there.
Oh,
We outgrew the little house.
yeah.
But we had to go to the elementary school. The blueprint was already there.
You use the same blueprint. Yep.
Same, and Pastor's sister says, okay, now it's time we start looking for some property,
Mm-hmm.
to build a church because we were busting out at the school cafeteria. Can you imagine?
Oh my goodness.
So we found this property. And so we were so excited. And the lady who owned the property, we went to her, we want to buy this property because we want to build a church.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, no, I don't want to sell to a church. She said, when I look out my window, I want to see houses out there. And it was right on a corner. She says, no. And oh, we were just so heartbroken. But God,
Yeah.
when God tells you to do something, you just walk in His steps because it may look dark at the time, but we know it was sunshine on the other side. So
Yes.
we tried to wear this woman out. I took my girlfriend out, and honey, if anybody could talk her, into selling that property, it would be me and my girlfriend Rose Scott.
Okay.
They said, no, I don't want to sell to a church, so we were defeated, but God, my
Mm-hmm.
husband went to see the family lawyer, and he said, Jim, how's the church? And my husband said, the church is going pretty good. So we saw some property on 19th Street, but the lady don't want to sell it. And he said, well, what? Who's the realtor? And it was Century 21. So
Mm-hmm.
he hollered to his secretary, Gladys. Now this was 42 years ago.
Yeah.
Gladys, get Century on the phone. And so she buzzed him and said, Century's on. Yeah, this is lawyer Watson. I hear you got some property for sale on 19th Street. How much you want for it? And he looked at my husband, and my husband shook his head. Yeah. So he says, well, I want to buy it.
Mm.
So the Lord had Lawyer Watson buy the property.
Wow.
And he sold it to us.
Yeah.
You can't stop God's.
You can't stop God. That's right.
So we got the property from Lawyer Watson, and he said, "And take your time." He said, "Take your time." So within a year, we had paid the property off because we had professionals.
Yeah.
Our family,
Mm-hmm.
So my husband, he wasn't taking any money, so all the money was going, all our tithes were going in the bank.
Mm.
So we bought that property, and then boy, my husband had the blueprints already in his mind, and he got a paper that he just drew out the whole footprint of the church.
Lady Di, that's so amazing. I didn't realize that your husband had decided that he wanted to wait until his retirement from military service to serve the church so he wouldn't have to take
Exactly
salary. That is a beautiful sacrificial way to kind of,
yeah. And I truly believe to this day, and I tell people, I said, because my husband was so rooted, in the Lord, everything that he touched, it turned to gold. The process of us building this church, it just turned to gold. We went to the bank, and the bank said, "You got how many people, and you want how much money?" And they turned us down. No. And we went to West Middlesex that year. And coming back, my husband said, "I feel like something good is going to happen." And I'm going, "You really?" And sure enough, a Christian establishment called my husband. And because my husband had contacted them.
Yeah.
It was like, but he called us. And he says, "I'm going over to South America, and I'll be returning, and I have a layover in Miami. And if somebody wants to pick me up, I would be glad to sit down and talk about the church."
Wow.
So my husband and my brother, they went to Miami airport and picked him and his wife up and brought him to the house. And I had cooked one of those eight-course meals. Yes. And honey, we ate. And so the wife and I, we were sitting on the couch, and the men were at the table. My husband and his brother, in Mr. Davis. And so they were talking, and the wife was asking me about the ingredients of the cake that I'd made, and I didn't want to talk about no cake. My ear was trying to listen.
Yes. You were dipping and diving.
Yes, child. So anyway, my brother-in-law, he jumped up from the table, and I looked and I said, "What?" He said, "We got the money."
Oh
so
my gosh.
The wife, and I said, "Now, does he have to go back, to a committee?" And she said, "No." She said, "He can approve it." I said, "You mean to tell me that's the man?" And she said, so the organization gave us the money.
Wow.
Build our church. And we were only going to build half of it, house the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And complete the fellowship hall and then do the sanctuary later. So Mr. Dave, he came through one day and he walked in the building and he walked in the sanctuary. He says, "You're going to finish this church." He said, "I got $2 million. How much of it do you need?"
That favor. Yeah.
Yes. My husband says, "I think about 200,000 will do, So he gave us that money and we completed the building.
Wow.
In the midst of it all,
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful testimony.
Yeah.
No, you and your husband's ministry is so far reaching. I know that if that building isn't there in Fort Walton, I know the church is, because it's in those people's hearts and what they've done through that work. And then the other churches that you've planted and opened, the people that you've mentored and walked along with are just untold numbers of people. I wonder some of the stories that you shared with me that I just thought were so captivating. We always ask, if our guests, if there's a woman preacher or a ministry leader or someone who, some women who made a big impact on your life, and you've shared a little bit with me about your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about her to our audience. Now, um, I know that you give thanks for her, uh,
Yes.
but we all have reasons to give thanks for the ways that she served and
Yes.
some of the things that she spent her life giving to. So I wonder if you might just say a little bit about who your mother was, who she worked with and for, and what she did with her life that impressed upon you.
Yes. My mother, Lucille Plummer, we call her the Plum.
The plum.
Yes, the Plum. My mother was an RN, a nurse at Flagler Hospital
Mhm.
in St. Augustine. And she was the head nurse of the colored ward.
Huh?
And I was blessed to have one of my children there in St. Augustine. and the colored ward. And what she did was she took the curtains, and closed them to
Uh,
box up. And I had a private room because I was the plum's daughter. You see,
okay, yeah.
I had a toaster, and I wanted toast when I got hungry or something like that. It was, you know, I was a plum's daughter.
All right.
We the civil rights movement was just beginning after I left. My
Okay.
in England
Hmm.
when I gave birth. My
Okay.
husband came back, and gathered up his chicks, and we moved on.
Right.
I think to California. I'm not sure. Um, but anyway, the civil rights movement had stirred up, and the management has said if anybody takes part, they were automatically fired.
Mm.
So my mother, being who she was, she lifted her head up high and she strutted right out the front door
Mm.
because she was tired of how things were going, you know, uh, in the city.
Yeah.
So she was a great part, of the beginning, of the civil rights movement
Mhm.
in St. Augustine. And then after a while, it just got to be so much. She said, well, we need help.
Yeah.
So that's when they summoned Dr. King.
Okay.
Dr. King, he came in, and he had meetings with them and gave them guidance, and stuff. And of course, they rallied, downtown and if anybody know the story, they had the dogs and the water hoses and all that stuff. That stuff was true,
Yeah.
but I wasn't there.
Mhm.
But my
Mhm.
mother kept me posted on things that that went on, and she would tell the story that she always would have her overnight bag packed
Mm.
because she knew sooner or later she'd be going to jail.
Ugh.
And so she said she went to jail one day. She said, and this lady was in the cell, and she she was intoxicated, and she looked up when they put my mother in the cell, and she said, "Oh my God, I know these people done gone crazy, done lost their mind. They done started locking up the movie stars."
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
don't know how long she stayed in, But anyway, so they had this grand march, on Washington Street, protesting, because they couldn't uh, do certain things, couldn't go certain places. And my brother, Eric was 10 years old, and he had a sign, and he was just marching. And Dr. King, he walked up to him and put his hand on my brother's shoulder, consoling him, that it was going to be all right, And that picture, that the picture is in some of the museums here in Florida. And they had on Dr. King's birthday, they had his life story on CNN. And they had that picture of my brother and Dr. King on CNN, along with Dr. King's story. So anyway, my brother got locked up.
Was it that day, the day of the march, when he got?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Remember.
It could have,
Yeah.
but I don't know. But anyway, so they locked him up, and then they called my mother to come get him, and she says, I will bring him a change of clothes, and I will bring him his toothbrush. But he's going to stay because they're there for a purpose, So that was it with that, And then Dr.
And
King,
how old was your brother?
he was 10. Yeah,
10 years old.
Was 10 years old, and I lost my brother in December. He was 71, and still that, it was quite a long time ago, and he was still get calls for interviews, for his part. Him and two other young girls, they integrated the elementary school there also. And my mother, she integrated the Constance Leon Hotel. And this is when, they had signed a couple of bills,
Yes.
And so she said, well, I'm just going to see. I'm going to try this out. So she went. And she said she checked in, and then she sat in the lobby to read the newspaper so she could see the other people check out,
Yeah.
And then we had some swimming in the swimming pool
Yeah.
at the hotel. And I think that was just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And you were too young, but at the time, they had bags of stuff. It looked like lye that they were pouring in the pool to get them out.
Oh my God.
It was all on television and stuff, but you were a little taught then, And so it was really, 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 it was rough. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But my mother would check in to let me know that she was okay, But
so you weren't in the South at that time. So you were kind of in a place where you weren't feeling that kind of persecution that they were facing.
Exactly. The first time that I really felt the sting of segregation was my husband's first assignment base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It's Pease Air Force Base.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband was very fair-skinned. He almost looked like he was white.
Yeah.
He's part Indian, and in black, and Caucasian, all that melt into one. And he went to New Hampshire first, and he got us a place, off base, because, he only had one stripe, And and then here comes me and Judy.
Judy's her daughter. Yes.
So I was hanging diapers on the line in the cute little court patio, yard. And I will never forget it as long as I live. I was hanging diapers up on the line, and the neighbor next door, she was peeping around at me, and I said, hello, and she contacted the landlord, and he told us that we had to move.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we, young kids,
Mhm.
we didn't know what to do. And so my husband's first sergeant, he came and got us a place not too far from the base, and went and got us bunk beds out of the barracks and set us up as best he could. Now, mind you, my mother, the plum, didn't know
Yes.
anything about it. We were too proud
Yeah.
to call home.
Yeah.
We were too proud, you know. So we went through that.
Yeah.
We did it by ourselves, but that was the first sting of segregation. Now, when we were in St. Augustine growing up, we knew, you know, not to go certain places. When we pumped gas,
Sure.
if we had to go to the restaurant, we knew to go to the back.
Mm. Mm.
When we bought sandwiches and ice cream, I wish you would go to that counter.
Mm.
Went round the side.
Mhm.
And when we went to the bus station, and we wanted to, they had the colored side, and then they had the white side.
Mm.
And they had the white water fountain and the black water fountain,
My God.
And
Yeah.
I would sneak and drink out the white water fountain to see if it was sweeter.
Good for you.
And these were facts. And
Yeah.
when we went to the movies, you know, we had to go around the side in the alley to go up the back steps to sit in
Yeah.
the balcony.
Yeah.
These were facts, but we knew,
Mhm.
we knew that's how we grew up, But when I left, that's when all hell broke loose, I would say.
Yeah. Lady Di, it's so easy for, I grew up in the desegregated South.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so easy for us to forget that all the things you're talking about is just a generation removed. It,
Really.
it was not that long ago
Mm-hmm.
that
It
these
wasn't.
things were so much a part of our culture. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that if we don't make the right decisions for equity and stand against racism and teach folks that we're all made in the image of God, that we can get right back to those horrible places.
Exactly. And I feel, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
exactly.
we're so grateful for people like your mother, your brother,
Mhm.
who paid that unbelievable price
Yeah.
to stand up for what they believed and stand against the ills of racial prejudice.
Yeah.
I can imagine what it meant to lose your job
Yes.
because, and for her to have taken that risk. I have a 10-year-old son.
Yes. Yes.
Can't imagine that kind of cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I don't ever have to, but I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for folks like your mother, the plum,
Yes.
who stood in that space
And
and
it's
um, fought
absolutely.
that hard fight.
But you know what? She was too popular. She was almost like the Harriet Tubman. She
Yeah.
was popular, and so they said that she had to go.
Yeah.
So she had a house full of white students
Uh-huh.
that had come into town, to uplift and help where they could, right? So they were sitting in the living room, and this truck came by. They saw the truck. They knew it was a red truck that took off,
Mm.
and they didn't know what was going on, and they smelled smoke.
Mm.
So they went outside, and somebody had taken a beach ball and cut it in half, soaked a rag in gasoline,
Oh.
set it afire, and put it underneath her gas tank of her house.
Oh my gosh.
They tried to bomb her house.
Oh my
She
gosh.
had to go.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even deliver her mail to her.
Oh.
She had to go. But you know what? In the meantime, they the committee there in St. Augustine, they said, we're not getting enough attention. We need to get somebody, that to come to St. Augustine to draw some attention to this thing, So Miss Peabody from Boston, Massachusetts, she came.
Okay.
And her son, let me see, her son was he the mayor? I don't think he was the mayor. But anyway, her son was well known. He was in Washington. In other words, they knew exactly who she was.
The movement, yeah.
And she flew in to take part, and she was at my mom's house.
Okay.
And so they went to some restaurant, knowing that it was going to get thrown out, because they were trying to integrate that restaurant. And she ran into some her friends, and they said, well, what are you doing here? And she said that she was there, to help. She said, and pretty soon, she said, I'll be going to jail after a while. The sheriff came in, honey, and ushered all of them out. And so that's when it hit national. When Miss Peabody, flew in. So today, there's a stake in my mother's yard with Miss Peabody's picture on it, telling the story.
Oh my goodness.
So if you go to St. Augustine today and take the Freedom Train, singing, it will stop in front of my mother's house.
Oh my goodness.
And tell her story.
Yeah, she was really one of those grassroots leaders in her own city that had so much influence.
Yes,
connected with help vault the situation into the national consciousness. And she served, didn't she, as a secretary to Dr. King for a period?
Yes. When Dr. King, when he came to St. Augustine, she was his secretary, But what's so beautiful about it? The hotel, the Ponce de Leon Hotel, which he integrated, they honored my mother.
Oh.
They honored her, after she had gone to glory. They honored her, my brother and I, we were there, to receive the award. And my. It was so many people there. It was so many people there. It's now named, it was a Ponce de Leon Hotel. It's a college for Flagler College, I think it is. It's a girls' school.
Okay.
A girls' college now, But for them to call us in, to honor her, it was so gracious. And they presented me with a flag, and the flag was flown at half mast in Washington.
Man.
On that particular day, and so Miss Peabody, when my mother had to leave town, Miss Peabody helped get my mother a job in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Okay.
At a hospital there.
All right.
And then she worked there until she got sick with cancer. And then we shipped her to Freeport, Grand Bahama on a cancer treatment program. And until they couldn't do any more, so and then she went to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. Now we were stationed in Minot, North Dakota.
Okay.
And my husband got her the humanitarian assignment. It's an assignment it's an emergency that you get to be near a loved one who's sick or whatever, to take care of them, and that usually takes about 6 months, 2 weeks we had it. So I flew in, got this apartment, near the hospital, and then the family drove with the 2 dogs and the birds and everything, so, you know, and so she was in and out of the hospital, and until God called her home, and so um, this one of the nurses, she says, your mom was on Channel 7. I said, really? She said, yeah. She said, yeah. She was on Channel 7. She was she was a great woman. I said, yes, she was. And so God fixed that thing, Kim. I think my mother was in and out. I think the paramedics came and picked her up at least 5 or 6 times.
Oh,
And I used to tell them, seemed like the same ones would come. I used to tell them, I said, look, we we get paid on the 1st and 15th of every month. I don't know when y'all gonna get your money. And they never sent us a bill.
Yeah.
They never sent us a bill. And the hospital had me come back to speak with the doctors and the nurses on the care of my mom, because they knew who she was. So I thought that was quite an honor too.
Yeah,
So.
she's an American hero. She's someone who is owed a debt
Yeah,
from for all of us who've come after her.
yeah.
So
And
thankful that you were able to be with her.
she also took her committee. I think it was I don't know if it was Georgia or where it was. Anyway, to honor oh God, what's the lady that was wouldn't sit in the back of the bus?
Oh, Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks, yeah. They went to honor Rosa Parks,
Okay.
So, and I'm going, and I wasn't there. I missed all of it.
Oh.
All of it, but when I can, I tell her story, about her and my brother, and it was a sacrifice, because they had the dogs, they had the water hose, and they had the hateful words, they went through, but they stood firm, some died, but
and you know what, Lady Di, you weren't there, but I can imagine what it was to love your mother, your brother, be so concerned for them, be so far away,
yeah,
to believe in what they were doing, but to the vulnerability of, caring for them and hoping they would be okay. And the prayers you must have prayed too.
Exactly. It was because we were in California when they tried to bomb her house.
Yeah.
My husband, I was sleeping. My husband woke me up. He said, Diane, they tried to bomb your mama's house.
Oh.
It was on television, the radio, or whatever. And so I got up the next morning. I couldn't get nobody. I got up the next morning, and I called her again, and she answered the phone. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I'm fine." She said, I'm fine, And but before I called her, I had my radio on, and I heard this person on the radio, and I told them that I was not going to give the evidence to anybody, but their proper authorities. And I went, "Oh my God, that's the plumber."
Oh no.
So that's what I called her. She told me everything was okay. So I called the radio station, and I said, "I just want to let you know that this plumber's daughter lives here, in whatever part of California we were." And he said, "Hold on a minute, ma'am." And I could hear him in the background. A lady, you tried to bomb my house, in Florida. Her daughter's on the phone. Ma'am, we'd like to know if we could come out and do an interview with you. I says, "No, I just want to let you know that Mrs. Plumber's daughter lived in Marysville."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, okay. Yeah." So that was that was the end of that, Yeah.
What a legacy. What a legacy you're a part of.
And it was 53 years old when the Lord called her home.
Oh my goodness. How young.
Yeah. 53 years old when the Lord called her home.
Yeah.
But she was satisfied. She was
Yes.
satisfied with her life, and she was satisfied with her fight.
Yeah.
You know?
And a great inheritance to walk into, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about her. I could talk to you about that for hours and hours.
Just a privilege, a privilege.
Yeah, she
It's
was.
a Black history.
Yeah, it is. It's Black History Month. We should be.
Yeah.
We should tell her story
Right on.
in women's history and in August and every other time because I guess
Yes, exactly.
he's an American hero, and
Mhm.
I love hearing stories about these folks who
Yeah.
were on the ground doing the work, and who are the reason. Who are the reason that
Mhm.
things progressed as far as they have today.
Yes, exactly.
Lady Di, we're so grateful for you and for your legacy, for your love, for your
Thank you so much.
ministry.
It's just a pleasure, that I could be available, and my granddaughter Ashley, would take her lunch hour to come and hook her Grammy up.
Yes. We love you, Ashley L. Eubanks Johnson. We're going to get you on this podcast.
Yes. Oh, she has been on every television station here in Florida.
Yes, I know. You have so many queens in your family. We just have to line them up and interview all of them. Well,
Yes.
listen, we thank you both for your time today, and we're
Yes.
so honored by the sharing of your stories.
Yes.
And I hope for our listeners that today's talk with Lady Di has reminded you that the struggles were not so long ago, uh,
Yes.
and that we have struggles facing us now. Uh, and the way that we ought to pay homage and be grateful for the people who have had the courage to take a stand. I just hope and pray I can be that kind of person
Yes.
when it comes to my moment of decision. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Lady Di.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
all our listeners. Hey, Lady Di was just in November on a trip with me. So was her granddaughter Ashley, and I can tell you, there's nothing like floating down the Nile River on a felucca while you're having a dance party with some of your girlfriends. So we did. You want to know about traveling with us? We'd invite you to join us for our Greece trip, which is coming up August 31st. And we'll be studying early church holy women all throughout Greece and Ephesus and Turkey. And so we'll post more information below if you're interested. We'd love to have you join us. We have 12 spots left. Lady Di, Ashley, thanks for being with us today, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, sweetie. Love you.
Love you.
See you soon.